Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot, Episode 2. It's the weekend of June the 3rd, and not too much new going on in the world of wrestling this week. First of all, I want to apologize for the sound quality of last week's show. Apparently, I had some microphone issues, but I should have those fixed by now. You'll probably pick up all the background noise in my house with this new mic that I'm using, but better that than having to blast yourself out of the room by turning your volume all the way up. So hopefully everything works out a little better this week. And yeah, like I said, not too much new going on in the world of wrestling this week. Last week was a holiday week, so nothing real big going on Raw or SmackDown to advance any storylines too much. I know there was some people online complaining about the about Raw and the whole food fight thing with the tag teams. And like I said last week, WWE has to cater to such a wide audience because they are so mainstream. So that's something that was purely meant to be entertaining. It was meant, it made me laugh. I thought it was funny. So, you have to think about a while back, say in the Attitude Era, WWE catered mostly to the 18 to 25-year-old male with the content and everything. Well, you have to figure now that audience is a little bit older, has kids of their own, so they basically just gotta, like I said, they have to serve such a wide mainstream audience. You're gonna still get the wrestling product, but you're gonna get a lot of the entertainment type deals too. As far as SmackDown, again, I know there was a lot of people complaining that you didn't get the one-on-one match with Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe that everybody was looking forward to. I myself was looking forward to it, but Big Cass got thrown in there, made it a triple threat. I just kind of look at it as WWE probably wants to save that one-on-one match for a bigger time, like maybe SummerSlam, something like that, because that's definitely a big money match. And I'm looking at it as it's just a matter of, hey, they don't want to give that one away for free because that's going to be, a huge match just like AJ and Nakamura. One interesting thing that did happen this week is Nick Aldis, the NWA World Champion, officially accepted Cody Rhodes' challenge for All In with the condition that Cody Rhodes has to win the Ring of Honor World title and put that belt on the line as well, make it a title for title match. So, of course, Cody does have a title match coming up at the end of this month against Dalton Castle, also with Marty Scurll in that match as well. So, definitely interested in seeing how that one comes out. I think a Ring of Honor versus NWA World title match at All In would definitely be huge. So I'm wondering if they're actually looking at possibly unifying those two titles, at least for a little while, letting one person hold on to both of them. It would definitely be definitely be big for the NWA to get to elevate them a little bit more, which is something that Billy Corgan has definitely been doing since he took over the NWA. He's definitely been building it up to make it mean something again, which I think is really cool because the NWA Championship is the oldest championship in wrestling. I always hated that it kind of fell by the wayside and didn't mean as much as it used to, and now it's starting to be built back up. So I'm pretty excited about that. But the topic of my show this week is how much is too much when it comes to the WWE, and I'm talking about pay-per-views, championships, television. How much is too much? I mean, if you look at pay-per-views, typically we started off with the big four. Obviously, WrestleMania was the first one. A few years later, they added in Survivor Series and SummerSlam and Royal Rumble, and you had just those four for a while. And now it's like you get at least one every month. And every year, right now, WWE is running between 12 and 16 pay-per-views a year. Just last year in 2017, they ran 16 pay-per-views. That to me is a lot. It gets to the point where pay-per-views used to be special. That was like the big payoff for all the rivalries that were going on and things like that. That's where you saw Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. That's where you saw Hulk Hogan and King Kong Bundy, Hogan and the Warrior. Obviously Hogan a lot in the early days because he wasn't on TV every week on Superstars or All Star Wrestling or whatever weekly show WWE had at the time. And now there's just so many pay-per-views out there. They don't feel special anymore. really is my take on it. And I'm sure everybody has their own opinions, their own ideas. I mean, mine, and again, this is just my own opinion. I'm not saying I know better than Vince McMahon. I mean, obviously, their stock prices are higher than they've ever been, so he's obviously doing something right. He's got, the audience that he wants, and he's got however many millions of people tuning in every week, and going to have his show now on network television come next year. So obviously they're doing something right. This is just one wrestling fan's opinion of just what I think would be cool, what I think would make it special, and what pay-per-views were originally meant to be. I mean, for me, you stick with the big four: Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series, and then you add two more. You have 6 pay-per-views a year. That's it, every other month. The two that I personally would add are, I would bring back King of the Ring, and I would keep Money in the Bank. And the way that I look at it is every pay-per-view has championship implications for the next, so to speak. Obviously, the Royal Rumble, pretty much keep it as is. The winner of the Rumble gets that main event spot at WrestleMania for the championship. King of the Ring, the winner of the King of the Ring tournament gets that championship match at SummerSlam. Money in the Bank, obviously, that can be cashed in any time. That's always kind of a cool thing to see, when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, who's going to be the champion when it gets cashed in, and things like that. And then Survivor Series, I would go back to the original format of 5 against 5. Doesn't necessarily have to be Raw versus SmackDown, but like use it to either advance or close out whatever big rivalries are going on. Like right now, just for example, you've got AJ and Nakamura in a big rivalry. Well, you have AJ put together a 5-man team, you have Nakamura put together a 5-man team, like that. Or Charlotte and Carmella, no titles, nothing like that, just strictly, grudge matches, bragging rights, however you want to say it. So that's my take on pay-per-views. Then, throw in maybe quarterly, either like a Saturday night's main event, Clash of the Champions, whatever you want to call it, or like a network special, something like that. Like I said, quarterly, like 4 times a year. So right there, and leave it at that. So you've got 6 pay-per-views, 4 quarterly specials, and that's it as far as your big payoff shows. Because I mean, that's not even including the NXT takeovers. You throw those in, with like I said, in 2017 there were 16 WWE pay-per-views. You throw in the NXT specials, you're looking at over 20 special events. So not quite so special, But like I said, that's just my take. I kind of goes back a little bit old school, but not so far back to where you just got WrestleMania and then that's it. You know what I mean? So that's my take as far as pay-per-views. Another area where WWE seems to kind of overdo it a little bit, kind of oversaturation for me, is championships. Right now, between WWE and NXT, there are 14 different titles in WWE. It seems like a lot. I mean, I understand Raw and SmackDown each have their own titles, and then NXT has its own titles. And then you've got, of course, 205 Live with the Cruiserweight title. It's just, I'd like to see it condensed down a little bit. The original brand split, when they did it back in the day, you had your world champions that could go from show to show. I kind of like that idea for today. The world champion, the women's champion, and the tag team champions, let them go back and forth between shows, so that those titles are a little more special, a little more coveted, however you want to say it. So this way, they'll still see the champion more frequently than you do, say, a Brock Lesnar. But, I'd like to see just a world heavyweight champion, a women's world champion, 1 set of tag team champions, and then, kind of leave the U.S. title and the IC title on Raw and SmackDown, respectively, to basically let those guys be your number 1 contender, so to speak. Those are the guys that can go after the champion, or those are kind of like your top guys that are exclusive to those particular shows. while the world champions are more free agents. With NXT, I think is pretty good where it's at as far as, they've got their top champion, the North American champion. Not real fond of the name of that title, but I like that they have a secondary title now. But you got your top champion, your North American champion, your tag champs, and your women's champ. So NXT I'd leave alone as far as the titles go, unless you're going to start treating it as a true third brand, which I don't think WWE is planning on doing anytime soon. It's kind of a separate own entity right now. It's probably going to stay that way. I don't think you're going to see people jumping from SmackDown or Raw back to NXT, although Ty Dillinger and the Revival and I guess a couple other people have gone back to NXT in the last few weeks, so I don't know if they're just kind of testing the waters to start treating NXT as a third viable brand on the same level as Raw and SmackDown. I guess we just have to wait and see. But for the time being, I like the 4 titles that NXT has. I just think up on the main roster, there's just too much. The championships just don't seem to have as much prestige as they used to when you had one world champion, one set of tag champions, that kind of thing. Actually, NXT, I guess you could say, has 5 titles because the UK title is defended more so in NXT than, I don't think it's ever been defended on the main roster. It's more so NXT and the Indies in the UK. So, but again, I think NXT is good as far as the title picture, unless they are going to start treating it as a third brand. And then you've got the cruiserweight title, which I do like that to kind of showcase the smaller guys, the high flyers and things like that. So basically, I'm talking about dropping 3 championships of the 14 that they have now. So that's kind of how I feel about the title picture. Going back to not really back to pay-per-views, but along the same lines as the pay-per-views, something else that you kind of tend to see a lot of are what I call specialty matches. With that, I don't mean see a lot of, but a lot of them have their own pay-per-views now, like TLC and Elimination Chamber and Extreme Rules and things like that. Use those matches sparingly, sprinkle them throughout the other pay-per-views. I don't think you need an entire pay-per-view of, Hell in a Cell or Elimination Chamber or things like it. It doesn't need its own pay-per-view. Use those for like the big money payoff rivalries. Some guys are in a program for 3-4 months like AJ and Nakamura. Use that Hell in a Cell as a payoff at like SummerSlam or something. Same thing with like Elimination Chamber. You've got 5 different guys that think they have a claim to the title. Okay, well, there's a title match coming up at King of the Ring. We're going to do it in an Elimination Chamber. Things like that. And then, same thing with like, I'd love to see them do War Games again. I thought the War Games pay-per-view last year for NXT was spectacular. I'd like to see it more traditional, like the old school War Games with the roof on top of the cage, but then I guess it does kind of restrict some of the guys who like to do some of the high flying stuff, because that was always an issue back in the day with WCW. It did cause some injuries in the early days of War Games, having that top on the cage because it was so low. Guys would try to do some more of the aerial type maneuvers and end up getting hurt. I know in the very first one, J.J. Dillon separated his shoulder because the Road Warriors tried to do their finisher on him, and they weren't able to set it up correctly, and just I guess the way that he landed caused his shoulder to separate. So I can see why they left the top off of the cage, because it does kind of restrict the movement in there and can be a bit dangerous. But same thing with like triple threat matches and fatal 4-ways and 5-ways and 6-pack challenges. Save those for to make them a little more special. That's my whole thing. It's like it doesn't. A lot of the pay-per-views and a lot of the big-time matches don't feel quite as special as most people think they should. And again, this isn't a criticism of WWE. Like I said, they're obviously doing something right because they're making money hand over fist. This is just one wrestling fan's opinion of what I think would be cool, what I would like to see. But who am I? What do I know? But Another area where I know a lot of people have an issue is how much television WWE does right now. I mean, you look at a typical week, just at their in-ring product, you've got 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, an hour of NXT, and an hour of 205 Live. So, you're talking seven hours a week of original TV, and that, in and of itself is daunting. I mean, you look at the people that just write a half-hour sitcom and how hard they have to work every week, and they actually have off seasons and things like that. Imagine how hard it is for WWE writers to come up with this much television every single week of the year. 52 weeks a year. So it's got to be a daunting task. I mean, I would like to see Raw go back to 2 hours, just because I I mean, 3 hours is a lot. I know I've heard multiple people say, coming up with 3 hours of original programming every single week is just mind blowing. And then as far as like 205 Live, I like the idea of cruiserweights having their own show, but maybe work those guys into Raw and SmackDown. Kind of like they used to do on Nitro. They would open the second hour of every show with a cruiserweight match. But again, it's just my own personal opinion. I'm not trying to pick the product apart or anything like that. I love the fact that I can see wrestling, WWE, almost every day of the week. So it's definitely, I definitely don't have a problem with it. I just think that, me personally, I would tweak it here and there. But again, that's just me. Another thing going back to the pay-per-views is the length of the pay-per-views. Now, from what I've read online and dirt sheets, things like that, who knows how much truth there is in it, but all signs seem to be pointing to it. Most pay-per-views now are going to be going to 4 hours, and that's just the main show. So you figure, I mean, look at this past WrestleMania. It was, what was it, it was a 7-hour show, including the pre-show. That to me is crazy. By the time it was over with, I mean, I know I had a WrestleMania party here at the house, and I mean, people were leaving, way before it was over with. Because you figure it's on a Sunday, people have to go to work the next day, things like that. And I'm sure the people in the arena were just exhausted themselves, let alone how the wrestlers had to feel. Thinking about like Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, who were in that main event, you figured they were probably at that arena around noon, and they didn't get in the ring until after 10 o'clock at night. So that's got to be rough on them. So yeah, I mean, pay-per-views right now run anywhere from 3 to 7 hours, and they're talking about making all of the main cards 4 hours long. To me, that's too much. Not like I'm not going to sit there and watch it, because I am, and I understand, they want to try to get as many people on those pay-per-views as they can, because I mean, those are big paydays for these guys, especially WrestleMania. So they want to try to showcase as much talent as they can in every pay-per-view and get those guys all the paydays that they can get, because I mean, say what you want about Vince, he does take care of his people, financially. So you can't really complain too much about that. But it just seems like I said, the whole point of the show, how much is too much. You're doing 12 to 16 pay-per-views a year, between 3 and 7 hours a pop. It's crazy. It's kind of WWE overload, I guess. And that's just the main roster. You're not even including the NXT Takeover specials, which again, those to me are, when it comes to pay-per-views, are pretty much perfect. You've got an hour kickoff show, and you've got a 2 to 3 hour main card, usually about 2.5, and that is perfect. I've never seen a bad NXT takeover. I've never had any complaints about an NXT takeover. Never sat here saying, "Oh my God, when is this going to end?" So I mean, Triple H with NXT is definitely, he's definitely got, I think, his finger on the pulse of the fans and what they want to see. But again, that's the hardcore wrestling fans. I don't think that could 100% carry over to the main WWE product, because they do have to serve such a wide audience, because it is a more mainstream product that does not just cater to your hardcore wrestling fans like myself. So, like I said, all this is just my own opinions, and do with it what you will. But I think that's about all I've got for this week. I know it's kind of a short show, but I've got definitely got some good ones coming up. Don't want to give away too much, but I can tell you one thing I've got coming up. I'm going to have a guest on the show, not any WWE guys or any wrestlers. It's going to be a buddy of mine, but going to have a guest on the show. We're going to do a little debating, about just different opinions, different favorites, likes, dislikes, things like that. Should be a lot of fun. That'll definitely be a bit of a longer episode, but until then, like I said, I've got some. Think I've got some pretty cool shows planned. Hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Podbean. Any way you can, just go search Catch, Hook, and Shoot. Make sure you put the comma between catch and hook, because I found out myself searching for the show that sometimes it won't come up if you leave that out. So catch, comma, hook, and shoot. And so yeah, give us a follow. Feel free to shoot me an email anytime at catchhookshoot@gmail.com. And like I said, always welcome opinions, questions, comments. You like the show, you hate the show, make sure you tell your friends about it, your family, any wrestling fans you might know. Hell, tell your enemies about it. If you think the show sucks, tell your enemies, make them watch it. I don't, whatever. Just tell somebody. Help me get some word of mouth going. And so yeah, I guess I will talk to you guys next week. And until then, have fun.